tell us a little bit about the profit first and how it applies to real estate, especially.
If I could boil it down to the most simple fact, it's like the envelope system for businesses. You open up bank accounts instead of envelopes. Like if you've ever heard of that, Dave Ramsey teaches that there, like common sense taught that years and years ago, like grandparents and whatnot. But you literally the tactical or like the practical effect is you open up bank accounts and call them profit, owner's compensation, owner's tax, and then you've got an income and expense bucket. You open up separate accounts and you've got three main accounts. I call them the golden trio because I'm a nerd. So like I love Harry Potter. I love Star Wars. I love all the big epic stories that have those three main heroes. And you need three main heroes in your business always driving you forward. So it's that profit account, your owner's compensation, and the owner's tax. So if I had to boil it down, it's like the envelope system, making sure you're paying yourself, because the higher level of like the whole mindset is we get hammered into it. The formula that gets hammered into us as entrepreneurs or real estate investors is sales minus expenses equals profit, meaning I make a sale, I sell a house, I pay everyone else and their mother. And then if I have anything left over, that's what I get to keep. And usually that's a one-time event at the end of the year or sporadically whenever they can. But the formula, the profit first mindset is sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I have a sale, I allocate to those accounts that I was talking about, those golden trio accounts first. And then what I have left over is the expenses to run the business. And it's that subtle shift and just that one, key shift there of thinking of taking that profit first and being a profitable, healthy business before you run yourself into the ground because you're paying everyone else, and never think about yourself when you are the most important asset to the business. I mean, no matter where you are. So that's in a nutshell.
I love this, man. I love that concept. Well, let me ask you this. Well, if their business owner is asking the question, well, dude, that's great. That's a great idea. I love it. But I am barely making it from month to month. How am I going to pay myself first? How am I going to do profit first?
I love this. I love this question because that usually reveals the mindset that got them there. So I would say, what got you here won't get you there. So if you're in that mindset right now, we have to do something radically different at least in a practical sense to change this up. So you might not be able to allocate, 10% to profit right now or pay yourself 50% of what's coming in. But where can we start? How can we start making it a habit? So like what I tell people is set up those accounts and just start allocating 1%. Do what you can from the next deals. If you're living off of the 100% now, you can live off of 98%. So like, I make sure that people at least get the habits forming, because it's a big mental shift, but the practical point is not that big. It's what we normally do. It fits in with our behaviors. We're checking our bank accounts. We're doing those things already. But if we can instill a habit, that's the most important thing. So if you're barely above water, you probably don't want to stay there. Like if you're living deal to deal, if you're in the real estate rat race right now, you probably want to get out of that. This will help you build the habits to get out. And you need to start where you are. Don't tank yourself, because in the book, it shows like, here's the targets you should be shooting for, these big percentages. Well, don't start there. Start where you can, just to start getting yourself in a different way of thinking and different actions that you've taken so far to get yourself living deal to deal. So.
Man, I love that. And it also reminds me a lot, Peter, when we talk about like the life inner vision, and like, it doesn't matter where you are, but you got to start. And so David, we do these live events and they're 3 days long each. And people will say like, hey, I don't have time to go. I'm too busy. And I'm like, hello, just like you said, like right now, like if you're barely making ends meet, that's a perfect sign. You're the exact person who needs this. We're saying the same thing. Like, hey, if you're too busy to take 3 days out of your life, you're the exact same person we need to talk to. And so what I love about Profit First is, and you said this, is it really works with human psychology versus against it. I know in the book, he talks about the research that shows, for instance, that if you eat on smaller plates, you will eat less food. It's like been shown and conclusively. And so it's kind of like the same thing here. I think where you're taking plates of money and putting them aside in a very specific order. And it's kind of like the same thing I think of, like, for instance, in our church, if you're a believer, you've heard of tithing. And the tithe is like, hey, you're supposed to give 10% of the off the top of what you make. And if you wait till the end, there's never anything left. There's never anything left. You got to do it first. And so what you're doing is analogous to that. It's like, hey, here's what we're going to put money into first. And then with what's left over, we will run our business. And I also love what you said. I want the listeners to really capture this. It doesn't have to start like in some massive amount and you have to revolutionize your business in a month. Like this is a process. It's kind of like you like you said, 1% at a time or whatever that looks like until you are a healthy, functioning entity.